Community, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it's my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our amazing Vista community and beyond. Today, I am joined by Kurtis Indorf. Kurtis is the CEO of the Classical Academies, a network of award-winning tuition-free public charter schools serving North San Diego County since 1999. He began in this role earlier this year. With over 17 years of experience in education leadership, Kurtis has also held executive roles at Great Hearts, Texas, and led innovation at Great Hearts America. His dedication to impactful leadership earned him a spot in the prestigious Presidential Leadership Scholars Program and a 40 under 40 honor by the San Antonio Business Journal. Welcome, Kurtis.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm excited to be here with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. I'm sure you're a busy person. You have a lot to do, so I really appreciate you carving out a little time for me today.
Teaching kids every day, partnering with
No
parents.
big deal. Yeah. Just shaping the future of the world.
Yeah,
no biggie.
No pressure. Yeah.
No pressure. Well, so I'm curious. I want to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about how you got started in education.
That's a really great question. And like many answers in life, I'm going to go back to being a kid. Mm-hmm. So I was born outside of New York City in Westchester County. My dad was a civil engineer. He was a builder. So he was building homes in Westchester County. So I really thought of myself as a little kid with a little like plastic hammer and saw and all that stuff as a builder. Really wanted to be like my dad. In third grade, we moved to rural Vermont, where my dad became an on-campus missionary at a private military college. And that really, those cadets, those students shaped who I am, and they were older brothers and sisters for me and have gone on and served our country in a variety of different ways, and some including making the ultimate sacrifice to protect the freedoms that we hold so sacred and dear here in the United States of America. And from there, I studied abroad in Ireland at Trinity College Dublin, theology and philosophy, where I was grappling with what is human dignity as a person? Who has dignity as a person? What does that look like? And that's a very academic question, but I'm a builder. I'm a doer. I want to do something about it. And so I thought, what can I do with my life to help to realize the dignity of kids in this country and beyond? And so I thought, that's teaching, that's education. So I became a teacher. I did Teach for America. I deferred law school. And when I started teaching, I fell in love with my students. And I thought, this is the proactive way to help students and families and generations thrive, to bring humanity and heart into our country in a variety of different ways, and to help to make the world a better place. And so I see education as the proactive way of doing that work, that calling for me. And that's what brings me here today.
Yeah. Wow. So how did you transition from the classroom to a leadership role? How did that happen? Was there something specific that led you to that moment, or?
So for a long part of the earlier part of my career, I had this framework, this impact framework. I want to have a positive impact on the world, right? That's what I talked about. And talked about the number of students I was serving times like the depth of that change equals some kind of conceptual impact score. So I started off as a teacher. My first year teaching, I won Rookie Teacher of the Year. I thought I was a good teacher at the time, but I could not for the life of me figure out, how do you scale high quality teaching and learning? How do you take one classroom and not just have one classroom, but have a whole grade level of great classrooms, and not just one grade level, but a whole school of great grades, and then a whole network of great schools? I couldn't figure that out. And so in my second year teaching, I did research on who is scaling high quality education the best. And looked at a bunch of different charters and districts, and thought that Achievement First, which was a charter network in the Northeast in New York, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, was scaling high quality education in diverse urban areas the best. I said, I want to go there. I want to learn there. So I started teaching at their high school, and really quickly I realized I was not a great teacher, because I shared my classroom with this amazing woman, Melissa Sheevy, who now teaches professors at Yale how to be good teachers. Like, this is what she does professionally. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, wow, that's great teaching. And so I learned really quickly. And was asked to step in to be a grade level chair, was asked to step in to be an instructional coach. And then that summer I ran our summer school. And then that next year I developed our writing curriculum, and then moved into leading K-12 teaching and learning. So it was a desire to have positive impact, in partnering with our teachers and with our leaders to serve kids.
Wow, great. So you were on the East Coast.
Yes.
And now you're in California, but you stopped in the middle of the country. Tell us you were in Texas most recently?
Most recently, I was in Texas. Yeah,
Okay.
we were in Texas for 8 years, which was wonderful.
And what did you do there?
So at first, I was the chief people officer at KIPP, and then chief academic officer as a urban charter network of 6 schools, K through 12. And so I ran, leadership development, talent recruitment, organizational culture, and then managed our schools and developed our academic programs. Then my kids started getting older. And I started thinking about where are my girls going to go to school? Where are my kids going to go to school? And this organization, Great Hearts, I had known about, and I'd known a lot of the leaders for a bunch of years. It's a classical organization, which we can go into that rabbit hole if we want to. And so I transitioned over to basically run academics across that network of schools. And I've been with Great Hearts in a variety of ways for about 5 years since then.
Wow. And so how did you land here with the Classical Academies? Tell us about that.
Well, it feels a little bit like fate. It's a whole bunch of things coming together. So during COVID, I became very interested in how do we better partner with parents? Instead of dropping off a student at school and what happens inside that school is a little bit of a black box, how do we open those doors and pull families in and do this work of education linked arm in arm? And so I designed and developed and grew an online school as well as a micro school models. And so those are now scaled across multiple states, serving thousands of kids. And during that journey, became really interested in what's the future of education going to look like? How is education evolving right now and for the next 20, 40, 60, 80 years? And so that kind of sparked my journey on both education is for the head and the heart. It's both intellectual education as well as character development, coupled with what are the formats and models and structures that can pull parents in and will become increasingly dominant in the coming years as we move into the future. And so those pieces kind of came together. I was leading Great Hearts, Texas as superintendent, about 12,000 kids, 23 schools across the state. Someone sent me the job description for the Classical Academies CEO, and I read it. And I texted them back. I said, this sounds like me. He was like, yeah, I know. That's why I sent it to you. And so got to know the board and the recruiter and the organization. And it just feels like hand in glove, an amazing fit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, tell us, what is the Classical Academies? Tell us the scoop.
The Classical Academies. Okay, so 25 years we've been partnering with parents for educational excellence. Often school is a place where education happens to your kids, and as a parent, you may not be involved in the way that you'd like to be. At the Classical Academies, we believe in partnering with parents. We believe that parents are a primary educator of their children. And so we have a variety of different models that help to make that happen. You can choose to homeschool your student and partner with one of our credentialed teachers, an educational specialist, on that homeschooling journey. You can bring your student into campus 2 days a week and homeschool for 3 days a week in TK through 6. In middle school, they can come on campus 6 days a week and homeschool for 2 days. In high school, 4 days a week on campus, 1 day at home, or complete homeschooling. So we have a lot of different flexible programs and models. And within all those models, there's educational excellence, there's partnering with parents, there's an amazing rich culture when you walk into our schools. It breathes this warmth and care. Our high school principal up at Classical Academy talks about he wants all students to be loved and seen and feel like they belong. And when you walk onto one of our campuses, this is what you get. This is what you feel. And so We have an amazing school model. In our high schools, we believe fully in holistic education. And so musical theater, band, marching programs, really competitive athletic programs as well. So it's really a well-rounded education that's partnering with parents. And so you get this flexibility, you get this parent partnership, you get this warm culture without sacrificing the things about K through 12 education that you and your family might also be looking for.
Wow. Okay. And so you have 5,300 students?
Yep. 5,000, over 5,300 kids across 6 different schools, 7 different physical sites, and a ton of different models, right? A lot of different programs. So there's a lot of flexibility. It's a place where your kid's education can be personalized for your child.
And here in Vista, you have one of your elementary schools?
Yeah, TK through 8.
Oh, TK through 8. Okay,
yeah.
Through 8. And then the high schools are located where?
In Oceanside, so Coastal Academy High School. We just moved into a $60 million complex of buildings that we're building out in Oceanside, right off of Oceanside Boulevard for Coastal Academy High. And then in downtown Escondido is Classical Academy High School, both the studio campus and the personalized learning campus.
And what's the difference between classical and coastal? Is that a different program model or it's just a name?
They're just different school names.
Okay.
Right? So in high school sports, right, we have like the classical team, the coastal team.
Got it.
And you have Orange High School or Escondido High School. So they're names of our high schools. It's all falls under the Classical Academies umbrella.
I know a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between coastal and classical? So it's just different school names. So basically, just like here in Vista Unified, we have Vista High School and Rancho Buena Vista High School, same district, 2 comprehensive high schools, similar.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Classical High School has been around for longer, right? Because it was our second school that we launched. Coastal High School, not quite as long, moving into its permanent location right now. But, every school has some different nuances.
Sure.
At Coastal Academy High in Oceanside, we are building a full culinary kitchen. We have a classically trained French teacher, and we're going to be teaching culinary arts, 4 years of culinary arts in like a professional grade kitchen set. There's like different stoves. I mean, and that's really a unique aspect of that school and of that building. Whereas at classical high schools, there's a lot of other different types of options. So different electives, some different flavors, but same school, same general models, same culture, same direction.
That's awesome. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what you mean by partnering with parents? Obviously, there's the homeschool model where parents are very involved. But what else can that mean when you say you partner with parents?
Yeah, so if you want to homeschool your kids and you partner with Classical Academies to do that homeschooling, there's a lot of different ways. First of all, it's really scary to think about homeschooling your kids. And so we have a team of educational specialists who probably have also homeschooled their kids or are also homeschooling their kids to be a coach and a support to you as a parent. Can often be lonely as a parent. If you want to customize your curriculum, we'll partner with you to do that. If you want to use our curriculum, because we have lesson plans built out, we have the activities built out, we'll work with you to plan those. You can use our curriculum in our program. So there's lots of support there in that journey. And then we have electives courses on site. So kids can come to Vista, to Coastal Academy TK8, to Classical, the Classical Academy Bear Valley for electives during the day. So if you want to homeschool, do that path. If you want to be on site a few days a week, you're teaching your kids on those other days. So it's not 5 days, but it's a few chunk days. So that's a different type of partnership, right? You're really, we're handing off the ball back and forth. We're working together to educate your children, right? Not only, again, their intellect, but also who they are, their character, their heart.
That's awesome.
And so, in many ways, it's an orientation. In many ways, there's logistics inside a partnership, but there's a belief, right? There's a belief we hold that education is not something that someone else does to your children. Education is something that you as a parent get to shape and drive, and we'll work with you in that journey.
Got it. I will say, as a parent, I have no interest in teaching my daughter math.
Yeah.
Her math homework just last night, she said, Mom, I'm studying for this test. What do you think about this? And I said, I have no idea. That looks like gobbledygook to me.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that parents, if they want to embrace kind of these homeschool options, that there's other experts who can walk their child through integrated to math with analysis, like
Absolutely.
bananas math. I don't know how to do that.
So, I mean, it's funny that you say this because this is a common point of feedback.
It's a question.
We actually have a live Zoom math support hotline. So if your sixth grader is working through a math problem and calls you up and says, hey, I don't know how to do this, Mom. You're like, that's great. Why don't you hop on the Classical Zoom, schedule a time. You can go in there. Okay, great. 30 minutes. I got 30 minutes with this math teacher who's going to hop on Zoom and is going to work through that problem set with you and other things. So we actually have this structure that we've developed over the past few years, and it's really being used a lot it's specifically for math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that, when you're in school and you learn math, there's a lot of careers and ways that people utilize math in their career. I'm not knocking math at all. It's a very important skill to have. But there's some things that you learn that you don't use every day. And so, for example, my daughter will laugh because she'll say, Mom, I have a question about math. And I'll just say, Y = mx plus b. She's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. I'm like, well, then that's the
slope formula.
Yes, it is. It's like, that's all I got. That's what I got for you. Sorry. What about FOIL? First, inner, outer, last. Got it?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the extent of my math support. Otherwise, ask your dad, or, she actually, has other supports too. But anyway, so I'm curious, your predecessor, Cameron Curry, well known in our region and the community, and really had a very big vision for the Classical Academies. And so I'm curious, now that you've stepped into this role, how do you see that vision either expanding, changing? Are you right in line? I'm curious about kind of this next wave of leadership, how you're approaching that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great question. So Monday night and Tuesday night, I held 25 priorities with the CEO. This was an open Zoom to all of our parents. We had a bunch of parents join and teachers join. It was the same on both nights. Just wanted to give different options for parents and for staff because, scheduling is hard. The Classical Academies is at this really interesting moment. We're 25 years. We're literally a quarter century in. Right. The founding CEO, Cameron, has retired. I'm the new guy. Right. So there's a new CEO. And third, we just finished a really ambitious 5-year strategic plan. And a big part of that strategic plan was to own the real estate, to build the buildings that we were educating students from. And we're on the final stretch of this with Coastal Academy High School. So the priorities for this year are a bridge year. Right. We're bridging from me joining, doing a bunch of learning, to setting a strategic plan for the coming year. And the theme for this year is strong foundation, bright future. Because at the Classical Academies, we have incredibly strong foundation of parents, of staff, of culture, of academic performance, and we need to continue to invest in that. And as I've talked to people, there's also such optimism and hope for what lies ahead. And so I'm approaching a lot of this year as a learning year, and we're actually going on a learning journey together. So I brought together a team where every month we're reading books and we're talking about different things. And the first seminar I led 2 weeks ago, we're talking about the purpose of education and reading some philosophy on what are different purposes of education, why does it exist. Next month, we're going to talk about great organizations. We're reading Jim Collins' Good to Great and some other Harvard Business Review articles. After that, we're going to talk about innovation in education. And so I am fortunate enough to have a lot of friends and colleagues who are leading some of the most innovative organizations in the country. And so this past Monday, we talked to a leader of one of the most elite K-12 schools in the world. And they did a demo for us on the work that they're doing on Monday with me and a bunch of members of our team. Not because I have an agenda and I'm driving something, but because we're trying to explore what is possible. We have another demo on Monday where we're going to talk about other tools and models that are showing breakthrough results for kids. We're going to do another one with a university college, with a university president, the most selective university in the world, to talk about their baccalaureate model for high school students. So we're doing a lot of learning right now. I love our partnering with parents model. I love the work that we're trying to do, and I have a lot of hopes and dreams for what the future is going to look like. But at this moment, you got to hold those things gently in your hand. And we're doing this exploration together. And at the end of this year, it will culminate in a multi-year strategic plan. And then we'll get to work.
And then we'll see what's happening.
And then we'll get to work. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's great. That's great. So 25 years, Classical Academies has been around. What do you believe is the impact that Classical Academies has had in North San Diego County? Maybe from like a workforce development standpoint. I'm curious what you think about the impact there, and what do you think the future could hold there?
Well, I think we'll go to workforce development in a second. I think primarily I think about the families. Mm-hmm. We are committed to partnering with parents, and families are really the cornerstone. They are the building block unit of communities and of society. And so I think part of the work we're doing is to support families on their journey so that they continue to be as strong and healthy as they can be. And that at a societal level is probably the most important thing. So I think we've had a lot of impact on that and partnering with parents to support strong families. At a workforce, the Classical Academies has gone from a very, very small and rented space in Escondido to serving over 5,300 people. We have over 800 employees across our organization. We have teachers, leaders, facilities workers, assistants in special education, leaders. So it's a fairly significant workforce organization. So there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of upskilling throughout the time and career progression. And one of the things that matters a lot when I looked at the Classical Academies is how long people stay. Mm-hmm. People stay in our organization for a long time. And that stability speaks to culture. It speaks to building skill and upskilling throughout a career, and it speaks to a habit and a practice of talent development. So that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. I didn't do that. It just exists within the organization. But a culture of learning and growth is so essential to achieve excellence in whatever you do, and we have that in spades.
That's great. It's fantastic to hear of organizations investing in their talent, supporting families, obviously. What are some ways you think that Classical Academies is preparing the workforce of the future? You mentioned the culinary program. That's fantastic. Are there any other examples of ways that are really tangible where you're preparing the workforce of the future?
I think it's a good question. So
we're a chamber. We care about business and employees. So curious.
Likewise. I'm early in my learning journey at the Classical Academies. I think we have really rigorous AP classes. We have, I think, an 83% pass rate, which is really, really high in terms of college readiness. Some great college placements. We've been having conversations on different kind of education to employment tracks. Nursing is a really interesting one. Obviously, entrepreneurship and technology and STEM is a really important piece. We have robotics programs, academic team competitions. And so the question of what do our high schools look like moving into the future to better make those connections is a really good one. And so CTE, career and technical education has been a focus of both of our high schools, as well as dual enrollment partnerships with local colleges and universities. So there's more work to be done there. And probably a lot that's happening that I don't know about, just to be really honest at this point. But yeah.
That's great. We have a committee on education and workforce, and I think we talked about it briefly.
Yes, we did.
And I'm going to get someone in your team plugged in so that we can talk more about we want to help businesses connect with education
the
to prepare
internship program, the placement program.
Yeah, but also just having education, understand what our local employers need from talent that's coming out of high school, 2-year school, 4-year school, and beyond. So that's great. So just thinking about charter schools in general. Yeah. What do you see, because you've been involved in the charter school leadership for a while, what do you see is happening? What's the evolution of charter schools? What's next as an industry?
Do you mean at a national level or at a state level?
Yeah. It could depend on your state for sure. Yeah. But just curious if there's any specific trends. Do you see charter schools growing? It seemed like for a while there were charter schools popping up everywhere. Maybe there's been some that have consolidated or didn't quite work out. So I'm just curious, just because you probably are more dialed into the data around that. Yeah. What do you see as some trends with regard to charter schools?
Yeah, so charter schools are public schools. As a charter school, there's a basic premise involved in it. It's increased autonomy for increased accountability. That's the general premise of charter schools, is you're more accountable, which also means quicker to be shut down if you're not achieving, in order to have more autonomy, more flexibility, more space for innovation, more space to figure out what's next so that others can learn that. And across the country, charter school enrollment is increasing significantly. Since during COVID, post-COVID, charter school enrollment is going up. In California, some of this is also around like regulation. In California, that is a bit more complicated. Our type of school, independent study, public charter schools, there's a moratorium. So we couldn't add another school to our charter currently in our model and mold. But the other thing that's happening in education is education savings accounts, right? These are not public schools. These are not public charter schools or public district schools. This is about giving money that follows the kids so that they can go to their school of choice, whether that's a private school or a religious school. And that's happening in different states, typically more red states, a lot less likely in blue states. But it's a form of parent choice. And so there's an interesting question. What is education for? What is the purpose of education? Is the purpose of education to form the intellect and that only? Is it to form the head and the heart? Is it about citizenship and forming good citizens? Is the purpose of education whatever the parent decides the purpose of education should be? So I feel like that's the philosophical debate that is right underneath the surface. And what's happening right above that are these policies at play. At the Classical Academies, we believe in public education, and we believe that we are able to partner with parents to pursue both the public good as well as an education for the head and for the heart. Their intellect, their knowledge, their skills, those things matter, but their character also matters mightily. And so lots of trends. There's a huge trend towards school models like the Classical Academies, hybrid schools, hybrid homeschooling, flexible school models, micro schools, virtual schools. Those types of models are increasing in enrollment, whereas the more traditional types of models, particularly district 5-day-a-week schools, are decreasing in enrollment the most. So lots happening in education, lots of trends playing out.
Interesting. What's the best part of your job?
So I should probably ask you when this episode's going to drop. But tomorrow on Halloween, one of my favorite books, short stories, is Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. And so, I like meeting with our teachers and our leaders. I love having the opportunity to teach our kids. I am a teacher at heart in whatever I get to do. I love coaching my colleagues, right? Being a thought partner to help them solve the problem and not solving it for them. I really like coaching and developing people. And so tomorrow, and I was in theater in high school. And so tomorrow I'm going to do a dramatic reading of the Telltale Heart to a bunch of 8th graders at Coastal Academy here in Oceanside. And I've been looking forward to this for for weeks now.
Yeah, you have a big smile.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be really fun. Hopefully it's fun for them.
Yeah.
I have a whole a plan of how to make it all play out. So I'm excited about that.
I remember in middle school, 7th grade, our theater teacher doing a dramatic reading of the Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can remember it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So it was really impactful. So that's cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's gonna be fun. It's a little creepy on Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful work of art.
Yeah.
By such an amazing author, and we want our kids to fall in love with art, with music, with writing, with reading. And so, I think of this as something that's both really fun and also, hopefully to some kids, they'll be like, oh, I would love to do some acting in theater, or that's a really cool book. I want to write something, or I want to read more along those lines. So I hope it also helps students fall in love with something academic, something creative as well.
That's awesome. All right. What's the hardest part of your work?
I really like what I do. I think, the hardest.
But there has to be something hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's always hard things. As a leader, it is your job to make the decisions that no one wants to make. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not a question of if you should, because you should. It's not a question of if you must, because you must. But it's your job to make hard calls. And that's heavy. And I think if at any point in my career it becomes not heavy, then I should leave my job, right? Because it should always be challenging to make challenging decisions, but you have to make them. And so that's always the hardest part, right? There's a mantle that comes with leadership. There's a weight of responsibility that comes with leadership. And the question is, how do you manage that and manage that well and build a really strong team in that work as well? So it's not a challenge. It's the yoke of responsibility that comes with the job.
Yeah.
And I embrace it, and it's heavy. So that's probably my honest answer.
Yeah. Good. Well, I like an honest answer.
Yeah.
I don't want a dishonest answer.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you have any advice for anyone who's thinking that maybe educational leadership is somewhere they'd like to go.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for them?
So yes, I would probably think about two things in particular. Let's see here. Yeah, let's say three things. So one is become a really good coach, become a really good developer of talent. And a coach and a developer of talent, a developer of other people, is not just a manager, right? And so you have to be a good manager. You have to learn how to manage well, but you have to learn how to coach and develop people. And so this can happen regardless of the function you're in, right? Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a facilities lead, whether you're an HR manager, learn how to coach and grow others. That's one. Two is pursue excellence in whatever you're doing. So actively seek out, what does excellence in my job look like? What are people who are best at this type of thing doing? Really try to immerse yourself in excellence in whatever it looks like, and pursue that, because that will allow you to learn and grow and up your game in that specific vertical that you're in. And then my third suggestion is to break out of your vertical. So I thought about my career very intentionally. I was a teacher, and then I moved to become a nonprofit executive director. And then I was on a board overseeing charter authorization across the state. And then I was the head of a people. I was basically, chief HR officer. And then I was a chief academic officer, the chief innovation officer. So I kind of moved around the circle of the different seats through which to view the work. And that has been intentional. And it also has really, really helped me see an organization and helped me see the work, right? So I can look at a problem through the lens through an academic lens. I can look at that same problem through an HR lens. I can look at that same problem through a legal lens. I look at that same problem through a business and financial lens. And that is because I've sat in those seats and broken out of one functional lane. And so I think that is a really important kind of career move for people who are thinking about, how do I break through to that next level? It's not always about going up. Sometimes if you're able to move horizontally and lead through a different seat, that can be far more powerful in the long term.
Excellent advice. And I think that's good advice for really any industry.
Any industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes approaching things from more of a generalist perspective, or having, an overview of all the different seats, like you said, is wise. So thank you for that. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that was really on your mind that you wanted to share about the Classical Academies or about yourself? Or
Yeah. I feel so lucky to be here. And one thing I feel like I haven't highlighted is just the importance of culture, right? Peter Drucker says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. I love that quote. And at the Classical Academies, the warmth, the depth of the culture that we have is, it pulls you in. It draws you in. It keeps you there, right? It's sticky. It's intangible. It's hard to describe just how magical it is. And so a huge shout out to everyone at the Classical Academies for being here, for our parents for investing in that culture, for everyone who's made the organization what it has been to date. And I am committed to keeping that culture strong in whatever direction we head.
That's great. We will make sure to link information about Classical Academies in the show notes. And so if parents or students want to learn more, or if teachers want to learn more about your organization, then we'll definitely link to that. But before we wrap up, I have a couple of rapid fire questions, a few rapid fire questions I ask every guest.
I'm ready.
The first is, what is a book that everyone should read?
So I taught high school English, so I'm going to go for three.
Lot. Okay.
I'll be fast. So one,
we'll give you a waiver.
Is The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. It's one of my favorite books. I just had our senior team read this, and we had a conversation about it. It's basically C.S. Lewis's philosophy of education. I think it's a great book. I think he's a great thinker. So Abolition of Man. 2, Good to Great by Jim Collins.
It's a good one.
It's a classic. But if you're thinking about how to lead and how to think about leading and frameworks, Good to Great is just kind of a go-to that I think everyone should read. And I'm a huge fan I love J.R.R. Tolkien. I love Lord of the Rings. And a more modern author is Patrick Rothfuss. He wrote Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear. And I love these books. They're fantasy. It was really fun to read. I read one of them cover to cover last weekend. And so I just think he's a phenomenal author. Feels a little bit like J.R.R. Tolkien.
Okay.
In there. So if anyone's looking for a book like that, Wise Man's Fear is the second one. Name of the Wind is the first one. Third one, we're still waiting on it. So we'll see.
Excellent. Those are all great recommendations. I would like to point out that was actually 4 books and not 3.
Because I named you're right. Name of the Wind.
That's okay. I'll allow it. I love reading. And so part of the reason I ask this question is a little bit selfish, so that I can get recommendations of great books that I want to read. So thank you for that. Thank you. All right. Kurtis, what's your jam? Tell me a song you love.
So I sang in high school, and so lately I've been thinking about some of the songs I sang in quartets. And so at night I've been making my kids listen to Billy Joel's And So It Goes.
Okay, that's a good one.
And So It Goes in like a barbershop quartet is just, I think, one of the most beautiful songs. So I'm going to go with that one.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good one. That's a good one. All right, tell me something that inspires you.
I love nature. Love being in nature. And I mean, what a beautiful place to live, to be in beautiful nature all the time here in Southern California. So
are you an ocean person, mountains, trees?
I think all.
Okay.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
Check. Okay.
we love the ocean. We went up to Big Bear Lake the other weekend for the first time. So that was wonderful to be up there. Again, I'm from Vermont, so like the mountains and the trees. We love hiking, spending a lot of time outside. So yeah, I think nature, the awe of it, natural beauty is very inspiring.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Tell me a Vista business that deserves a shout out.
Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out to Kat Brock. Kat Brock is a Vista Realtor.
Okay.
She's one of our Invest partners. Her husband, Mr. Brock, is a teacher at Coastal Academy, and their 3 kids go to our school. So Kat Brock is a realtor here in Vista, and so shout out to her.
Okay, I love it.
And her team.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thanks for being
it was a
my
lot of
guest.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you to my guest, Kurtis Indorf of the Classical Academies, and thank you for listening to Velocity. If you like what you heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell a friend. Help us move Vista forward with Velocity. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization that serves as a catalyst for business growth. Find us online at vistachamber.org.